So there's often a lot of talk of a forgotten deity in the ancient Israelite religion. Asherah, an ancient Semitic goddess, was once worshipped as a consort of the high god in various ancient Near Eastern cultures, including the Israelites. Known primarily from archaeological discoveries and ancient texts, Asherah's role and significance in the religious practices of the Israelites have been the subject of much controversy and debate. Despite being a prominent figure in the early history of Israelite religion, Asherah's worship was essentially suppressed and erased from the mainstream biblical narratives. This video is going to explore the historical, cultural, and religious context of Asherah, her relationship with the God of Israel, and the reasons for her eventual exclusion from the biblical canon. Asherah's name is first attested in the ancient texts of the Levant, particularly in Ugaritic inscriptions from the ancient city of Ugarit, modern Ras Shamra, Syria, where she is depicted as the wife of the supreme god El. In these texts, Asherah is portrayed as a mother goddess and the queen of the gods, associated with fertility, motherhood, and the nurturing of life. Her role in the Ugaritic pantheon is significant, as she is seen as a central figure in the cosmic order, wielding a power over nature and the heavens. Asherah's association with fertility and childbirth reflects her role as a provider of life and sustenance, a key characteristic of many ancient Near Eastern deities. In the context of ancient Israelite religion, Asherah's worship is attested through archaeological evidence and references in the Hebrew Bible. Several inscriptions and figurines have been discovered throughout ancient Israel and Judah, depicting Asherah as a female deity often represented by a tree, a wooden pole, or a stylized image of a woman. These sacred poles, known as Asherah poles, were often placed in high places, and they may have been part of the rituals designed to invoke her blessings for fertility, prosperity, and protection. Although the Bible condemns the worship of Asherah in various passages, these discoveries suggest that Asherah's veneration was widespread among the early Israelites, particularly during the early phases of their religious history. The relationship between Asherah and the God of Israel is one of the most controversial aspects of her worship. In ancient Israel, Yahweh, the God of Israel, was often seen as supreme deity. However, evidence from various biblical and archaeological sources suggests that Asherah was once considered to be his consort or wife. For example, some scholars point to the presence of inscriptions that reference Yahweh and his Asherah, suggesting that the goddess may have been thought of as a partner to Yahweh in the religious practices of the Israelites. These references indicate a syncretic belief system where the worship of Yahweh and Asherah coexisted, reflecting an early stage in the development of Israelite religion when polytheism, I can say that word, is still prevalent before they switched to monotheism. The biblical narrative presents a stark contrast to this view. In the Hebrew Bible, Asherah's worship is repeatedly condemned as being idolatrous and not appropriate in high places where the Israelites would engage in rituals, as they were considered an abomination and heretical to Yahweh. The Israelite kings are criticized for allowing the worship of Asherah and other deities. The Bible portrays Asherah's worship as part of the religious syncretism that threatened the purity of Israelite monotheism. The tension between the polytheistic practices of the early Israelites and the monotheistic ideal of later periods led to the systematic destruction of Asherah's followers and the eradication of her worship from any religious consciousness in the Israelite people. The suppression of Asherah's worship can be attributed to the rise of monotheism in ancient Israel. As the Israelite religion evolved, the worship of a single, all-powerful God, Yahweh, became the central tenet of faith. The shift was influenced by the broader religious and political changes that occurred in the Near East as Israel sought to distinguish itself from its neighbors, which worshipped a pantheon. The worship in Jerusalem under King Josiah, as described in the Bible, played a key role in the decline of Asherah's worship. Josiah's reforms aimed to consolidate religious authority by destroying idols, including Asherah poles, and centralizing worship in the Jerusalem temple. These efforts were part of a broader movement to eliminate syncretic practices and to reinforce Yahweh's exclusive sovereignty. Despite the efforts to eliminate Asherah from Israelite religion, traces of her worship remain in the archaeological findings of the culture for centuries. Archaeological findings such as inscriptions mentioning Yahweh and his Asherah continue to suggest that the goddess continued to be venerated by certain segments of the Israelite population even during the period of biblical monotheism. Additionally, the figure of Asherah appears in non-biblical Jewish texts, such as some of the apocryphal and pseudepigraphal writings, which provide further evidence for her enduring presence in the religious imagination of the ancient Israelites. These texts sometimes present Asherah as more ambiguous or metaphorical, reflecting the complexity of Israelite religious history and the persistence of pre-monotheistic traditions. In the broader scholarly context of Near Eastern religion, Asherah's story is a complex relationship between the high god and his consort. The divine pairings of gods and goddesses were once believed to be important in prior religious belief and practice. However, in this particular case, the wider pattern began to give way as all of the powers were consolidated within the Most High God. Thus, this is a period of religious reform where Israelite leaders sought to establish the exclusive supremacy and worship of Yahweh, distancing themselves from any other practices that might suggest that there be another God. Therefore, Asherah began to disappear from the biblical narrative, and this highlights a move towards orthodoxy and theological understanding in ancient Israel. In modern scholarship, Asherah's role in ancient Israelite religion has been reevaluated, with many scholars emphasizing her importance in the early religious history of Israel. Studies of ancient inscriptions and archaeological findings have revealed the extent to which her worship was intertwined with the development of Israelite religious identity. While the biblical text sought to suppress worship of Asherah and erase her from the religious consciousness of later generations, particularly through Deuteronomy, the archaeological record suggests that she was once a powerful and revered ally whose influence can be traced in the cultural memory of the early Israelites. In conclusion, Asherah's role as God's wife in ancient Israelite religion reflects a complex and evolving theological landscape. Once the central figure in the religious practices of the Israelites, her worship was gradually suppressed as the monotheistic ideal of Yahweh's exclusive sovereignty took hold. Moreover, instead of pairing her with Yahweh as had been traditionally done between her and El, they eventually moved towards trying to pair her with Baal, therefore putting them both in the light of deities that were not to be worshipped in any circumstances because they were viewed as evil by the early Israelites. Asherah, as God's wife, is a symbol of the rich and diverse religious traditions that existed in the ancient Near East and the ongoing struggle to define and preserve religious identity during those time periods. The scholars will continue to rage on about this, as it does not comfortably reveal a religion that was determinately monotheistic from the start, but rather that it was a evolution in progress. If you like this message, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, welcome aboard to Safe Space. If you're returning, I'm glad that you're back. In the name of the Most High God, I wish you health, wealth, prosperity, and abundance, blessings, and protection as so deserved. Remember now, have a wonderful and blessed day and take care of yourselves.